Now, almost a full month ago, Biana put this post on the Blizzard forums talking about the tier 8 set bonuses. Well, not specifically the set bonuses, but the actual item level of the tier gear. So I'm sure by now you're already aware that there's going to be some huge buffs. So when it comes to normal gear, all normal 10 and 25 man gear in Ulduar is being buffed by 6 item level, and all hard mode items are being buffed by 12 item level. So this takes the hard mode items from 25 man up to 252 eye level. So when looking at sims, the majority of your gear is going to be made up of hard mode items. So most of the items when you're looking at your BIS list are going to be break-in tier 8 set bonuses to actually just get higher item level, which obviously gives you more player power. So Biana made several good points about buffing the actual tier tokens or the tier pieces. Reasons such as strengthening your character with special bonuses and auras feels more exciting than just raw stats. So the raw stats that you're going to get from 252 gear. Set bonuses add new flavour to your class and rotation with temporary effects that feel exclusive to each phase and refreshing. So an example of this would be the Warlock set bonus, or even the Boomy set bonus where you get an instant Starfire. The consistent tier token drops help gear distribution as long as they're desirable items. Again, a really good point. When you're all battling for these 252 hard mode pieces, then a lot of the tier tokens they're going to be used, and Blizzard actually get onto this themselves when they're saying, well, you know, you're going to be using tier until you start breaking them up and replacing them with 252 gear, just because of actually the limited hard mode items that actually drop. He also said about the raw amount of competition on some of these 252 items, such as every physical damage dealer wanting the same over budgeted 252 leather items, and I agree with him, it is boring. And collecting matching set items and building a coherent aesthetic for your character just feels good. Tier sets of TBC, Wrath era are some of the most emblematic and appreciated skins in the game. Again, definitely can't argue with that. What did Blizzard say? So Blizzard said, "Hi everyone, we've talked about this a fair amount before the holidays and sort of went back and forth about what to do with a tier set. And in the end, we've decided that it will not see any further adjustments past the normal 6 item level bump." Straight away, I'm thinking it's a bit of a shame, because maybe not the full way, because obviously they're not hard mode items, so they're not buffed initially. They are just 226, which is why they're going up to 232. But I actually think taking them up to 238 could be a good idea. And Blizzard want to share some of the reasoning that internally they basically decided to keep it as it is with just the 6 item level buff. And for simplicity, all they're giving is examples for 25 man gear, which absolutely makes sense on the basis that if you're trying to get full BIS, all you're bothered about is 25 man as well. So when they was discussing it internally, one thing they kept going back to was that for most guilds, the jump from 232 to 252 will not be quick, and most groups can expect to be wearing a lot of 232 gear for most of the time that Ulduar is current content. The reason is twofold. The hard modes are actually fairly hard, and clearing them all in week 1 is not a given for all guilds. Some will clear them all quickly, most will not. And Ulduar is not itemised like TOC and ICC Heroic are, e.g. there is not a full hard mode loot table for every boss, and when you complete a hard mode kill, you'll only receive a single extra piece of 252 loot from most bosses. Which is absolutely right. I think we're probably going to see more guilds killing at least 2 to 3 hard modes, you know, in the first week, and definitely not like that many guilds clearing all of them, including Algalon. At the end of the day, most guilds have been practicing on the PTR, and we're waiting any second, any minute, any day. We're waiting for the next PTR round to go up, when even more guilds are going to be going on and practicing. You're going to be going with the comp that you're going to actually have at launch, probably, and getting a few of the hard modes pretty much nailed down anyway. So I think it's going to be quicker than Blizzard and maybe making it sound there, because things like Thorim, you know, a couple of hours, you'll get that down no problem. Iron Council, ultimately, it's the first one you should be going for anyway. But after a bit of practice, understanding the fight, that shouldn't take too long either, among others. But they're absolutely right. Not every boss has got a hard mode, so getting lots and lots of 252 really, really quickly to the point where you can kit all 25 of your raiders out, it's not going to happen. But it does also make handling loot a little bit sketchy. And the reason I say this is because all of us by now have probably looked at what our full BIS gear is, and we're all going to want it. So even though, yes, we'll probably get our 2 set or 4 set tier 8 to tide us over until then, depending on how your loot system works in your guild, if you're taking tier pieces and then that's going to push you lower down on prio for the 252 gear, you're not going to want to take it. If you're using some sort of DKP system or EPGP or something like that, again, you're going to be punished for taking non-BIS gear. I know it's not a big issue, but ultimately all of us want to get BIS. Whereas if they did consider just putting the tier gear up by 6 item level, so it's going to go up to 238, whilst it's still nowhere near 252, factoring in some of the set bonuses might start to bring it a bit closer to the point where actually you could say, it's 50 DPS, you know, I'm going to use the 4-piece tier 8 because it's better for me, and then let X, Y, Z class take the other items, you know what I mean? So even though they're not going to do it, I could still see it being a good move, personally. They've then said this means that if you're looking at your BIS list and plan on getting a full set of 252 gear, and you assume every person in your 25-man raid wants the same, you'll be looking at over 33 weeks of full clearing all hard modes to fully gear your raid out in 252. This also assumes zero waste in terms of disenchanting duplicate or unwanted items. I mean, that's probably going a little bit too far, because you're not going to want 252 in every single slot. There'll be a few pieces of 252 gear that you want, and then even some of the 10-man hard mode gear is obviously very, very good in comparison to some of the 25-man loot. But what they're saying is right. And ultimately, you are going to want to get full BIS, obviously, even if it's not during Ulduar and it happens during TOC. You're still going to want to get full BIS, because some of these items will be better than what you can get in TOC. So I get that that is going to help keep it relevant over the next, well, 2 phases, phase 2 and phase 3. I think it could get quite frustrating, to the point where I'm not normally one that's asking for buffs. You know, I'm quite happy having more difficult content, more challenging content, not having loot thrown at us. But when there is quite a large amount of people that are raiding for such a small pool of items, maybe one from each hard mode is a little bit tight. They then go on to say, I think some folks have been looking at 252 gear and fixating on that as they are thinking of their BIS lists. In reality, however, some of those 252 pieces will be chase items you may be seeking for many weeks or months and may never get based on RNG or loot competition. And really, that's fine. Is it though? That's a very classic model, and gearing up first in 232 and then slowly replacing those pieces with the rare but highly desirable 252 gear should give the gear progression in Ulduar a long and satisfying arc. This is how this works in original Ulduar as well, the only difference being that hard mode items were perhaps not as compelling considering the modest power gain over normal, especially when compared to the very significant increase in challenge for hard mode bosses. I get it, and I'm very much on the fence. I'm like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I still think that buffing the tier gear by another 6 item level will just help make getting that 252 gear less frustrating, because it will be frustrating when you're raiding Ulduar, which is not a quick raid by any means. So during TOC, knowing that one of your BIS items, let's say a pair of bracers, comes from Ulduar, and you're having to raid it every week, and there's 6 or 7 hard mode items that can drop from that one boss, could we expect to see change in the future at least? I think that would probably be a positive way of looking at it, that okay, we'll have these completely unachievable BIS lists, because that's basically what you're going to have. Most of your BIS list will be unachievable if everybody's got these 252 pieces on them, but maybe then when TOC launches, the hard modes start dropping 2 items. I think that would probably be a pretty good trade-off, to be fair. But they then go on to say, so could we have bumped tier gear to keep it relevant longer? Yes, but ultimately we are increasing player power significantly as it is, and we feel like we're in a pretty nice place where you combine the pre-nerf boss difficulty with the item level bumps we have now. Hard modes will be really, really hard for many guilds coming into Ulduar in mostly full 213 gear, but will get steadily easier as 232 gear is gathered. If we inject too much more power past that 6 item level normal jump or add additional drops to hard modes, as some players have suggested, it could cut the legs off of that hard mode progression much faster than we'd like. I want to give a really bad example. I need to go and sit on the sofa, this is doing my back in. Think about retail. So when we think about retail and what they've done with Dragonflight, even if you don't know a lot about Dragonflight, a problem with retail, or one that people really complained about a lot, was the lack of tier sets. So at some point, Blizzard thought it was a good idea to no longer have tier set bonuses. And what have they done? They've slowly brought tier set bonuses back. Getting sets of gear in WoW has always felt quite satisfying. You know, even go all the way back to tier 1. Getting your full Lawbringer set as a Paladin or your Judgment set in BWL. The tier sets are meant to be quite powerful. They're meant to give good bonuses, you know, that are quite fun, change your abilities a little bit, or, you know, make certain abilities stronger. But ultimately, going into a tier and not going for tier gear feels wrong to me. I know there's some classes that only want their 2 set. There's a lot of classes that want their 4 set. There's some classes that don't want them at all. But to basically have no one ultimately wanting to walk into Trial of the Crusader with 4-piece tier 8 feels a bit weird to me. They've then gone on to say, time will tell how it actually plays out, but for now, the team is very happy with the difficulty versus reward within Ulduar in general. It's likely your tier set gear isn't your ultimate best for the phase, but it may still last you many weeks or months while you work towards those hard mode items and wait in your turn to get them. We think that will feel pretty good and provide a great sense of progression within the phase as you take those stepstone upgrades. I don't know, I think being in the same tier and replacing or breaking your set bonuses, I think that's going to feel pretty bad, not good, but that's just me. I hope that helps clarify our thoughts on this. Sorry for the length of this post, and thank you for taking the time to read it. In previous communications, we stated we'd like to spend more time explaining the why behind certain decisions, and as we've seen a lot of debate about the issue, we felt it was a good topic to chime in on. We really appreciate the feedback we've gotten for Ulduar so far, and super excited to see it go live in the not-too-distant future. I think overall we can't complain. Like, getting this sort of information from Blizzard about quite important topics is great. So, you know, big shout out to them for actually talking to us and telling us what their reasoning for these weird decisions sometimes is. I'm really curious to see what you guys think. You know, let me know in the comments. I don't very often say, oh, comment on the video. Yes, it helps the algorithm, but I really want to know what you think, because for me, tier set bonuses have always been something that should be good. You know, and I mean, normally the first tier of content, the set bonuses are normally pretty rubbish all round. You know, some of them can be quite strong, don't get me wrong. But as you go from tier to tier, they just get stronger. The set bonuses get better. And you should always want to at least get your 2 set or something like that. So I think saying it's going to feel good, ditching that, you know, getting your 4 set tier, which might be a really good set bonus that you enjoy, like getting an instant cast Starfire or, you know, a random proc that increases your spell power, and it feels good to have that and good to play with that. But then just because there's these ridiculously overpowered 252 items that maybe just shouldn't be that high in item level, you know, they come along, and just because of the raw amount of stats they've got, you've now got to ditch that set bonus that you really like because you're going to gimp yourself a little bit by using it and not switching to that 252 piece. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how I feel about it. I love the fact that they've communicated it. I'd like to see, personally, the set bonuses get buffed just by another 6 item level. I think that will start to close the gap a little bit and maybe make some of the set bonuses outweigh the raw stats, but who knows? But there you go. If you didn't know, now you know. Be sure to like and subscribe. See you on the next one.